All right, so we begin with the next session. Traditionally, IT security has been something that has been at the fag end of the product. It's something that some other team would do, the development teams would just do the development part. And the cycles move to DevOps, it again became something that came at the end of a DevOps cycle. Right? It was all okay as long as the DevOps cycle were like extended in months and weeks, but with faster cycles, it becomes quite problematic because even if you have an IT policy built in, the shorter cycles can make them outdated. So today we have a visionary IT leader with us. He heads the Amdocs, head of cluster programming at Amdocs International. Please give a big round of applause for Roshik Mohamed, who's going to walk us through mastering DevSecOps, building a secure and agile digital environment.
Samit. Check. Can you hear me? In the back? So good evening, everyone. I'm Roshik Mohamed. I'm heading the international cluster of digital delivery in Amdocs. Amdocs as a company is building products in media, entertainment, and telecom industry. We have customers around the world, and Amdocs employees themselves are spread across 84 countries. The topic for today, Amit explained it very well, is DevSecOps, building a secure and agile development environment. Now, it's very close to me because the kind of environment that we are working in Amdocs, it's very complex. Just to give you an idea, we have a unit, which is a technology unit, who develop the products. And it's a plain vanilla product, and we need to take it, my team needs to take it and customize, develop additional code, configure, etc., and then deliver to customers around the world. So you can understand the complexity involved. Like, in Europe you have specific GDPR requirements, we have different tag rules, different onboarding rules, retention policies, even simple validations like zip code, 6-digit in some country, 5-digit in some country, promotions you have. Even for the same country in different zip code level, you need to have different kind of promotions. And these are not standard. These are the innovation coming from our customers along with us, obviously. So every customer need different kind of features, different kind of configuration. So this is the complexity in which we are working in. And we cannot have hundreds of teams independently working for separate customers, right? So I'm handling the international region, which means the Germany, Vodafone Germany till all the way to Optus Australia, for example, and everything in between. Excelcom, Indonesia, Malaysia, even in India, Airtel. So we are working with all these customers. So we want to make sure that a lot of things that we are developing common for across all these customers need to be developed commonly, and then to have that separate customization across. So this is the complexity in which we are working with. Now, what is DevSecOps? And what triggered us to go to DevSecOps? So I want to tell you an interesting story. Back in the days when I was a developer, and in the early 2000s, whoever was there in IT, every other person was flying to US. You sell, you talk to customer, you stay there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you sign the deal, you come back to India, and then you get the team together, you will form the team. Then after the contract is signed, you might pretty much start with a puja, depending on which part of the country you are. I was in Chennai, so you need to start with a puja. You even break a coconut, and then you start the project. Why? Because the project is like year-long or multi-year project, right? So you come back to India, you explain things to the team, then you have a long period of high-level design development, and then you have detailed design creation, then you have development itself, then you have testing, then comes the security testing. I'm sure few of you might remember the old way of working. And then the security person comes in, and the development team has no clue what security is. The expert comes in, whatever he says or she says, we now then go back to the drawing room, design, fix it, and then ship the software out. Just to give you a better example, especially for the folks who are not in IT, you go walk into a car factory and you have the design, you create the prototype, you build the car, you do everything end to end, including the final painting. The car is about to be shipped out, and then someone comes and says, hey, you forgot seat belt, the child lock, you forgot the airbag. And imagine the kind of effort it takes for you to fix that, because you need to take the car back to the factory, the line, and then you need to open stuff. Sometimes you need to create the solution for that new thing that is identified, build it, deploy it, test it again, and deliver. So the time, the effort that is needed, all that is much more. And this is the way we used to do software delivery in the past when we were in the waterfall days. Today, fast forward, we have so many great tools and technologies in IT that enables us to deliver software in a much faster cycle. And the expectation of the market has also changed. They want everything yesterday. So we complete the discussion with the customer on the features, on the functions, and the first question is, so when are you going to deliver? So with this, we cannot afford to have a cycle where we do everything and then end you are doing the security. And this is where DevSecOps is coming into picture, where you're trying to integrate the security practices early on in the stage of the software development. Now, today I'm not going to give you a lot of theory, I'll just give you what we did in Amdocs in such a complex environment. If you're a simple product organization, it will be much easier, but I'm talking more like a product-led services organization. It's one of the most complex implementations. So when it comes to implementation, I'll just divide the stages into two. One is the pre-sales stage, and then the second thing is the factory itself, where you do the development and the operations. So pre-sales stage is where we start talking about security. So when we are discussing with the customer, unlike olden days, security discussion is a part of the agenda. We have security experts from our side and the customer side talking to each other and identifying, we present them what we have, what kind of tools we have, etc. They give their feedback as to what we need to change in our solution, tools, etc. And then they also give us additional requirements, what additional we need to build for their specific geography or the business. And then we have an agreement, signed document that we have from a security perspective, which was not there in the past, in the earlier days. Now we go to the factory. This is what I am kind of leading. And we need to implement that. Now, what are the challenges to do this, what I mentioned, the DevSecOps? There are many, but when you talk about the top ones, one is the culture itself. The culture of, telling the people or making the people aware that the security is for everyone. It is not just for that security team to be responsible for the security. It's for everyone. So this is the cultural change, which is the hardest for anyone to change. The second is the tool set or the tooling part. There's so many tools out there from the security perspective, and every day there are new tools coming out. And the third is the knowledge gap for our employees, how to catch up with all these new tools coming up and the way of working on the processes that are there in the security domain. So I will explain a little bit of implementation part, which will also cover some of these challenges, how we overcame those challenges. I would like to talk about the tool part first, because that is something always hanging inside people's mind. So there are a lot of different type of threats out there, right? Simple ones like authentication, authorization, or SQL injection. All these different types of security threats are identified using different set of tools. And there are different type of scans that is done. As an example, you have like the static code testing, you use check marks for that. Or you have security scan for the containers itself. Then you have for the containers, you use the twist lock. Then you have the security for all the open source code and the third-party libraries. You use Black Duck for that. So what we did is that we identified all the different types of security threats. We did the heat map. We identified what are the top threats that are there. We did the threat modeling, and then we identified what are the different tool sets available in all those different types of testing or the areas. And then we did POCs with each of these tools, because there is no single tool in the world which can catch all the type of issues. So there are many tools which will catch like 70%, 80%, some others which will catch others. So we did all this POC, and we identified few of the tools that we want to invest in from the license cost perspective, from the knowledge perspective. So we selected that. And then we did all the training and everything, and we got ready from our product perspective. Now it doesn't end there, especially if you are in our type of industry. We need to now go to customer, and we are mainly serving in telecom domain, the Airtels of the world, the Bell Canada, the AT&T, T-Mobile, all the big telcos are our customers, and they are not telcos anymore. They are techos, which means they themselves are extremely technical. So they are investing a lot in technology, and a lot of times they drive what need to adopt and what tools we need to use, etc. So when we go to the customer and have that discussion, they also drive some of the tools, and we should be open to adapt that, learn that, and to make it part of our ecosystem. So this is the first step, or one of the parallel steps that we did to kind of hash out what are the tools, what are the processes that we'll set up, etc. Now coming to the culture part, what we did is that we brought everyone together. So there's a framework, by the way, it's called the 3 ways model. It is part of the DevOps handbook. It's pretty easy guide to go through this. It is one is the principle of flow, one is the principle of feedback, and one is the principle of continuous learning and upgrade or training or whatever. So basically the first one, which is the flow, this is the key part. We are bringing the security person, the developer, tester, and operations together, unlike olden days where security is coming in later in the game. So they are all part of the factory. They are working together on a day-to-day basis. All the tools that we identified, which I mentioned, we are integrating that as part of our CI process. We are having a code scan and all those things which is integrated as CI. So as and when the developers are developing and checking in the code on a regular basis, on a daily basis, we are getting feedback. And this is where the principle of feedback comes into picture. We have all the automated testing even for the security flows. And the defects that are there is coming right here, right then. In the olden days, again, me as a developer, I develop a code, I pass it to the next step. By the time the defect is raised, I have moved on to another program. I'm coding a new one. So when the defect comes, it's going to someone else. So you can imagine the time it takes, extra time it takes for that person to understand the code and to fix that. Here, the beauty is that you're getting the defect right there, right then, and you can integrate it, or the same developer who developed the code is fixing this security defect also. Now, the trick here is, it should not be an outside process. When you have this automated testing for the security, the defects that gets opened, it is automatically opened in your tool that is used for the development. It can be Jira, it can be Octane, whichever defect tool you are using for your regular factory, the security defects are also raised in that exact same factory. So all the functional defects and the security defects are coming as part of the backlog, and you are fixing it as part of the iteration itself. So this is a big change in the shift and the mindset. And here, even though it's easier said than done, because a lot of times as IT professionals, we are focused on the functional side, right? The flow, functional flow, what is visible outside. We don't too much care about all the security that which is hidden. So it's not easy to just say that and get implemented. So that's why we need to have the proper governance, which I'll come to that in a minute. The third flow is the continuous upgrade, because security. See, when I've been in the industry for like 23 years now. And the development and testing goes in hand. And I know a lot of companies, and even in Amdocs, many units now do not even take Scrum testers into the Scrum team. So the expectation is that developers themselves need to test and push the code upfront. So development testing hand in hand, and pretty much we have hundreds of employees who can do that. But security is a new domain, and like I said, the cultural shift, it's very difficult to let people invest time in that to learn that. So this is why it's super critical to have a dedicated team who has security architects, who's day in and day out researching on these topics and coming up with the new tools and new processes, etc. And it's extremely important that they either come and take the sessions or create modules that the development teams can consume. And after every development cycle, we need to do a retrospective also about security to see what are the what went well, what did not go well, and then what are the specific security incidents that we had and how we can fix it, etc. So this is like the three-way model which has worked for us very well. Now, moving on, some of the, so whatever I said till now, it is more like application security. But fast forward 2022, 2023, in the world of cloud and AI and the LLMs and everything, even this has changed. So, I'm sure there were a lot of sessions about AI today. So the prompt engineering, where what we will write in the applications like ChatGPT and what results we are going to get. Even this is like an SQL engine. It's also security. What kind of questions are we doing? What kind of data is being thrown out of the application? So this is one. And then the second, with the cloud coming in, the infrastructure is no more all the physical someone else doing outside of the development organization. Infrastructure is also a code now. Infrastructure as a code. So a lot of these security practices, whatever I mentioned, we have now started expanding that to other areas of IT and the infrastructure team also. So this is another thing that is, in the next coming years, it is yet to, I think we have just scratched the surface now in the world of AI, the security, a lot of research happening there. There are so many podcasts coming up in, Spotify and others. Every other day there is one new podcast talking about the security part. So in the whole, I think this is the super critical item as any development organization. Security is number one, and this is not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing thing, and it is extremely important to integrate that as part of your development organization. I would like to close by telling one thing, which is it doesn't stop at the factory level, because you deliver the software into production. And okay, great, you delivered, it's very secure software, it's working well, all the functional, non-functional, everything is going great. But production is a different ballgame. For us, in our case, for example, we have our product, but we have a lot of third parties involved, Couchbase, Kafka, and all these folks are directly running in production. And the scale at which in production, one of my biggest installations, Excelcom, they have 120 million customers in the digital stack, one of the largest in the industry. And there's no way I will find all the security issues in the development environment. So especially the third party ones. So every other day we have like the extremely awesome monitoring system where even if we have the security issues, we are sometimes dependent on the third parties. We talk to them, get the understanding of what is the scope of this issue and how long it will take to fix, etc. Keeping the customer informed, because by the time we find an issue or a threat, and by the time the third party will fix it and give us, there's a huge risk or a huge exposure for our systems for the customer. So you need to inform the customer. Security is something that has to be top of the agenda, if not weekly, in your steering. I mean, if not daily, at least in weekly basis, you need to have this in the steering. And the most important thing is to make sure that you are involved and following up with all those third parties and getting all those top impacting or at least the priority 1 and priority 2 kind of issues into our factory, get it adopted, tested, and delivered outside of your regular cycle. And this is where the entire security will come as in a round, as an end-to-end, and this is how you secure your production, by having a great agile and secure development environment. I know we are already running late this evening, so I think I've saved around 4 minutes for the organizers. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for patiently listening.
Thank you, Roshik. Can you please be on stage for the memento, please?